Emily Carter had become the kind of person everyone depended on. At 29, she worked as an emergency room nurse at one of Seattle's busiest hospitals, where every shift felt like a race against time. She spent her days comforting frightened families, holding trembling hands, and fighting to save people she had never met. Patients remembered her kindness. Doctors trusted her judgment. Her co-workers admired her strength. But none of them knew how exhausted she really was. When her 12-hour shift ended each night, she drove home alone through Seattle's rain-covered streets. The city lights reflected off the wet pavement, turning every traffic signal into a blur of red, yellow, and green. The silence inside her apartment was louder than anything she heard in the emergency room. 3 months had passed since her mother, Linda Carter, had lost her battle with ovarian cancer. Grief had quietly settled into every corner of Emily's life. The flowers from the funeral had long since died. Friends had stopped checking in as often. Life had moved forward for everyone else, but Emily felt trapped on the day she said goodbye. The only thing she refused to let go of was one voicemail. Every night, without fail, she unlocked her phone, opened the saved message, and pressed play. "Hi, sweetheart. I know you're probably busy saving someone's life again. Just remember, you deserve someone who fights for you the way you fight for everyone else. I love you. Forever." 31 seconds. That was all she had left of her mother's voice. Sometimes she listened once. Other nights she replayed it 10 times until tears rolled down her face. One rainy Thursday evening, Emily climbed the stairs to her apartment after another emotionally draining shift. She noticed a small cardboard box sitting neatly outside her front door. There was no shipping label, no return address, and no delivery company logo. Just her name written in elegant handwriting she recognized instantly. Her heart skipped. It looked exactly like her mother's handwriting. With shaking hands, she carried the box inside and carefully opened it. Inside were old family photographs, a faded birthday card from her 10th birthday, and the small stuffed rabbit she had slept with as a child. Beneath them rested a sealed cream-colored envelope. Across the front were 7 words written in blue ink. "Open this only when you feel completely alone." Emily slowly broke the seal. Inside was a single handwritten note. "If you're reading this, you've survived the hardest part. Meet me at Pine Lake on October 14th, just before sunset. Trust me one last time." Emily stared at the words, barely breathing. Pine Lake was where her mother had taught her to skip stones, where they celebrated every birthday picnic, and where they promised that no matter what life took away, love would always find its way home. October 14th was only 4 days away. For the first time since the funeral, Emily felt something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in months. The October sky glowed with shades of orange and pink as Emily parked her car beside Pine Lake. The familiar scent of pine trees drifted through the cool autumn air, bringing back memories she had tried to bury. Children laughed in the distance, ducks floated peacefully across the water, and the gentle sound of waves brushing against the shore made the world feel strangely still. It was exactly the kind of evening her mother had always loved. Clutching the handwritten letter tightly, Emily walked toward the old wooden bench where they had spent countless afternoons together when she was growing up. Her heart pounded with every step. She wasn't expecting to find her mother, of course. She simply wanted to understand why Linda had asked her to come here after she was gone. As she reached the bench, she noticed a man standing nearby. He looked to be in his early 60s, wearing a navy jacket and holding a weathered leather journal against his chest. When he saw Emily, his eyes filled with emotion. "You must be Emily," he said gently. She froze. "How do you know my name?" He smiled sadly. "Because your mother asked me to meet you here." Emily's breath caught in her throat. "My name is Daniel Brooks. Your mom and I met at a cancer support group nearly 2 years ago." Confusion washed over her. "My mother never mentioned you." "I know," Daniel replied. "She made me promise I wouldn't contact you until today." He reached into his jacket pocket and carefully handed Emily another sealed envelope. "She wanted you to read this while you were here." With trembling fingers, Emily unfolded the letter. "My sweet girl, if you're reading this, then Daniel kept his promise. Before cancer entered my life, I was terrified that you'd spend your whole life taking care of everyone except yourself. Then I met Daniel. He reminded me that even after heartbreak, people can still choose love, friendship, and hope. I asked him to help you remember that after I was gone. Emily could barely see the page through her tears. Daniel quietly pointed toward the lake. Your mom asked me to show you something. They walked together to the end of a small wooden dock. Hanging from one of the posts was a tiny metal box secured with a ribbon Emily instantly recognized. It was the same blue ribbon her mother used every year to wrap birthday presents. Inside the box was a silver necklace with a delicate compass pendant. A small note rested beneath it. Whenever you feel lost, don't search for me. Follow your own heart. That's where I'll always be. Emily closed her eyes as tears streamed down her face. For the first time since losing her mother, the ache in her heart wasn't only grief. It was gratitude. And as the sun slowly disappeared beyond the trees, Emily realized that her mother's final gift wasn't a mystery to solve. It was permission to start living again. Emily sat alone on the dock long after Daniel quietly walked away. The silver compass necklace rested in her palm, catching the last rays of the setting sun. She could almost hear her mother's laughter carried by the breeze across Pine Lake. For months, she had believed that moving forward meant leaving her mother behind. Now she realized that love didn't disappear when someone died. It simply found new ways to stay with the people who needed it most. As darkness settled over the lake, Emily slipped the necklace around her neck. The cool metal rested against her heart, giving her a strange sense of comfort. Before leaving, she looked one last time at the calm water. Thank you, Mom, she whispered. The following Monday, Emily returned to the emergency room for another busy shift. Ambulances arrived one after another, nurses hurried through crowded hallways, and doctors called out medical orders. Everything looked the same, yet something inside Emily had changed. Near the end of her shift, an elderly woman named Margaret was admitted after suffering a mild heart attack. She had no visitors. No family members answered the hospital's phone calls. Emily noticed tears quietly running down the woman's face. Are you in pain? Emily asked softly. Margaret shook her head. I'm just afraid I'll die alone. Those words hit Emily harder than she expected. Without thinking twice, she pulled up a chair and sat beside the woman, holding her hand until she fell asleep. For the first time in months, Emily wasn't trying to escape her own grief. She was using it to comfort someone else. A week later, she contacted the local cancer support center where her mother had met Daniel. She volunteered to spend one evening each week talking with families whose loved ones were receiving treatment. Some people wanted advice. Others simply needed someone willing to listen. One evening, Daniel stopped by the center with coffee for the volunteers. I think your mom would be proud of you, he said. Emily smiled through watery eyes. I think she already knew I'd find my way. Months passed. The apartment that once felt painfully silent slowly became a home again. Fresh flowers replaced the wilted memories of the funeral. Friends visited more often. Emily even started saying yes to invitations she used to decline. She still listened to her mother's voicemail from time to time, but not because she couldn't let go. She listened because it reminded her how deeply she had been loved. On the first anniversary of Linda's passing, Emily returned to Pine Lake carrying a small bouquet of white daisies. She tied a blue ribbon to the old wooden dock and watched it dance gently in the wind. The pain of losing her mother hadn't disappeared, but it no longer defined her. As she walked back toward her car, Emily touched the compass around her neck and smiled. For the first time in a very long time, she wasn't following the past. She was finally following her own future.